Hello and welcome to another episode of Oh So Curious Times DCU Daily. We are back with, we're going to talk about a Moana box office smash hit. Moana 2 is breaking records all over the world. It's already passed $400 million at the box office. That is quite insane. It's not even been in theaters for a full week. So getting close to $500 million. So we're going to talk about that on the show today. We have to talk about the comments from James Gunn about Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, Superman, how David Cornsweet is one of the best actors he's ever worked with. Just gushing about everything to do with the new DC. Of course he has to, because this is his baby. But there was an interview with him in the Hollywood Reporter alongside the co-creator of course Creature Commandos, and of course Creature Commandos comes out in 2 days, so we do have to look ahead to that, and any kind of news around it we have to get into. We're gonna do the Arrowverse by the numbers now that Superman and Lois are done with their final season, with the finale airing a couple of nights ago, or actually it was last night if you're watching us live. And we'll look ahead to, of course, the what looks like a pretty good World War II movie that's coming out with Kerry Washington, who just got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame today. So we're going to look ahead to that, and I'm sure we're going to get into lots more, even beyond that, as always, on the show. So without further ado, let's get the show started. Hello. How is everybody doing? Angelina, I'll start with you. How has your day been?
Good. I had a commercial shoot today in which I had to sit in a cold plunge for 3.5 minutes, but we made it and we're here and we're doing all the good things. I got to see Moana 2 today, so that was cute.
That's nice. Well, we're going to talk about that. We got a review coming up from Moana 2 on the show. John, how are you doing? Are you feeling any better? Is the cold subsiding? I mean, we had a long show yesterday. You sounded fine. So what's up? You are muted, sir. You should probably unmute yourself.
Now I finally get to do the thing of missing the mute thing anyway. But yeah, I'm getting there. I'm still kind of nasally, still kind of congested, a little bit of a runny nose, and then some coughing. That's why I have my water here. So
real hot.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of Canada Dry.
1,000 miles away from me, so you just keep the germs over there.
Yeah.
My sister didn't, so
Cool. Well, as we always do with the show, we start off with the news. So let's do that, and we've got a few things to talk about, of course. And then after that, we're gonna have a Moana review. So yeah, let's do the news.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number 2.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Wow.
All right.
I pick popcorn out of my teeth. No.
Perfect.
No.
Perfect.
Live TV. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
I blame the popcorn.
It looks like good popcorn.
It's that healthy popcorn.
Yeah.
Healthy.
I wish I had a bag of popcorn next to me right now.
I had toast before, so
it's my favorite low-calorie snack, y'all. Popcorn is actually not that bad for you, and it's super filling. So
yes,
yeah.
I agree.
Well, I mean, apparently the ones in the bags cause cancer or something. So
I get the ones with like 3 ingredients from Sprouts. So,
I mean, and Angelina's also in California, where they're very stringent about that kind of stuff. So far more than most states. So I think she's probably eating healthier popcorn than we can get in the store in Connecticut.
that's
But anyway,
facts.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is pretty blue state, so there's a lot of health nuts around here. Like, you know, I'm just saying. It's like I'm just saying, if they ever like remade Stepford Wives, they would replace traditional dresses with like yoga pants and Botox. That's what it would be.
I feel like Botox made its showing in that movie too. So, you know.
Well, speaking of popcorn and the movies, there is a movie coming out next year, which what? You're not gonna have popcorn when you go see Snow White in the movie?
I'm not seeing this fucking garbage. Are you kidding me?
Well, all right, John. I was just gonna say there's a new trailer out today, and it's like the first full trailer that we have gotten for this movie. We had like a bit of a preview, like a teaser trailer before. So I know you guys watched it. So I'll start with you, Angelina, since John is probably just gonna shit talk it. So, you saw the trailer. What did you think about it? Are you looking forward to it now? You're seeing the Seven Dwarves, Rachel Zegler, of course, playing Snow White.
The CGI is interesting for the dwarves.
That's a very nice way to say it's fucking horrendous and nightmare.
You just immediately see the dwarves like burst into this scene, and you're like, "What is wrong with his face? Like, is he well?
What's wrong with your face?"
But with that being said, everything else is like a pretty true depiction of the cartoon, like the original Disney cartoon. I think a lot of people forget about the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was made in like the 20s, like the 1920s.
It's one of the older Disney movies, yeah.
It is. I think it is actually the oldest. Yeah.
It is. There you go.
So it is the oldest, followed by like Sleeping Beauty, and then came Cinderella and everything else. So this seems like a really, even her haircut, which looks fucking awful on her. Sorry.
Looks like Lord Farquaad in Shrek.
I know. I was like, wait, that is so not a good look.
But even in the 30s, it was meant to be more of like a fables, fairy tale sort of a look, right? So it just feels more outdated by today's standards.
They would like curl, like the cartoon's hair curls underneath, and I guess they didn't feel like doing that to her hair every day, or the wig. I don't know. I don't love the choice for her personally, but I guess I do always really appreciate when somebody tries to go back to the source material. You know what I mean? So I like that even the evil queen sort of looks just like the cartoon. Like, you're getting like really more visual depictions instead of like terrible fucking Kristen Stewart modifications.
Hey, now, don't be messing with Snow White and the Huntsman. Snow White and the Huntsman was awesome.
You won't even watch this movie, and you're gonna talk to me about that bullshit. That's
crazy. Oh yeah, Snow White and the Huntsman was cool.
Yeah, sure.
It's not great, but it's fun.
I doubt it's gonna be better than this. Like, come on.
At least like Kristen Stewart didn't like completely and utterly rag on the original film for no fucking reason and talk about how bad and dated and terrible it is.
Huh?
So there's that.
Huh? Yeah, no, I'm not. I hated that movie. But with that being said, I'm excited for this movie to sort of get back to source material. It's kind of fun to see Gal Gadot play an evil queen. That's kind of interesting, considering she's been Wonder Woman for the fucking last
trying to break typecasting, I guess.
Yeah, it was like, okay,
I mean, but I'm just saying this is a great role for her. I mean, as far as who's the fairest of them all, I'm like, if I was that mirror, I would have a pretty hard time telling Gal Gadot, no, you are not the fairest of them all. You know what I mean?
To be fair, don't get me wrong. I love making fun of the idea every queen is some of the most beautiful women to ever grace this earth. Meanwhile, the Snow Whites don't even compare. But ignoring that part, I make the memes, I make the jokes. But at the end of the day, that's the point of the story. A lot of people joke oh, it's like Gal Gadot. She's like Bombshell. Why are you saying Rachel Zegler is the fair? Well, here's the thing. The mirror, first of all, says who's the fairest of them all. It doesn't say who's the most beautiful of them all. And second, the whole point is that the queen is more beautiful than Snow White on the surface, but she has an ugly inside. That's why Snow White is fairer, because she's pure. She's pure of heart. She has a heart of gold. She is a caring person. That's why the mirror says who's the fairest of them all, Snow White, because she is truly the fairest on the inside. Because that's what matters, is what's on the inside. That's the message and the point of the story. So I like to, you know, don't get me wrong, I like to make the memes, I like to make the jokes, don't get me wrong. But like at the end of the day, that is the point. She's supposed to be more beautiful because she's ugly on the inside.
Yes.
That's why when she dies, she's a decrepit old gross lady, because that's what she is on the inside. Duh.
But wasn't it also like she was like eating people's hearts or something in the original story? Like in the cartoon,
probably
was, like,
with how fucked up it was.
It's probably a lot darker than the Disney
yeah. It was
version
like
of
I
it,
remember the original cartoon like hinting at. I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, let's kind of go back to the trailer specifically. I want to get your opinion on, did this trailer make you more excited for the movie? Did it give you more of an idea what this is going to look like?
I literally didn't know this movie was coming out until you sent us the trailer today, Dan.
No, yeah, I knew.
It's been in the works for a while. Come on now.
I knew
didn't
the
know.
controversy.
Or I didn't care. I don't know.
You know what I'm wondering is if Hugo Millie is in the chat.
Hugo Millie. Wait, okay, but who plays the prince in it? Because that was
nobody.
Snow White.
We gotta find out. Somebody like find. Let's see. 2025 Snow White.
I'm doing it. Andrew Burnett. Who the fuck?
I don't know who the fuck that is. Who
you
are
guys
you,
both
sir?
said the exact same thing. At the same time.
Who are you, sir?
So
Andy Burnett. Okay.
He's famous for his. Well, he's not.
Oh, he went to Yale. Oh, he's probably some rich Yale. I don't know.
And then
probably some nepo baby.
Most known for his stage career in the public theater revival of King
So
Lear.
some bitch ass nobody. Okay, that's all we need.
He comes from stage, so he's probably at least a really good actor, which is cool. Yeah, and he's been in
very well trained.
Wait, what the fuck? He was in The Little Mermaid? Doing what? He's been in a couple.
Okay.
So he was in The Chaperone, Spare Room, The Little Mermaid, Snow White, in The Front Room. But I'm like, well, who the fuck was he in The Little Mermaid?
I don't know.
Pending.
I mean, John, Hugo Millie's in the chat.
Who is Hugo Millie? What's up, Hugo Millie? What am I listening to? What is happening?
Yeah, Angelina has no idea what is going on right now. This is...
What? Ew.
No.
I gotta go.
Angelina needs an adult.
Somebody,
there's a running gag that Hugo Millie likes to see John's smoldering face on their screen. So we have, you know, every time Hugo's watching, we
give the audience what they like. All right,
pretty much.
Let's give the people in the words of Lady Gaga. Let's give the people what they want.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay.
The watchers in the chat, hello watcher. We got Caleb in there. We've got Miraculous. Hunter is here. We've got Buster Barnes joined us. Antonio we have in the chat right now. Miraculous. Ray J 365.
Not Ray J. I'm dead. What?
Oh, Hugo's. Oh, okay. That comment was for you, Angelina. Never mind.
What was it?
I don't know, Dan. I don't know, John. I think Hugo's moved on from your smolder looks.
That's okay.
The comments are
Come on,
hilarious.
John.
It's okay. I've been chewed up and spat out multiple times. It's no biggie.
Yeah, I don't know. John Smolder doesn't really do it for me, but I'm so happy he does it for you.
Yeah, it's
what they want. Alrighty then. So
you sound like Big Russian. John. I am Big Russian woman. Yeah. With how you text, I could see that.
Wait, what, John? I am big Russian woman, but I need you. Wait, can I read this in a Russian accent?
Gee, please. I'd be offended if you didn't.
You sound like David Harbour from
I am
the
big
Black
Russian
Widow.
woman, but I need to be free from you. I can do better. One more time, John. I am big Russian woman, but I need to be free from you. I love this for us. All right, keep it coming, Hugo.
It's good because I really didn't want
Uh-huh.
to smolder every time on the fucking on this goddamn stream.
Pimp out, John Smolder.
Oh my god, this is great.
Angelina said my name in an English accent, and I'm English. That's spooky.
That's spooky. That is
Buster
true,
Bonds. I mean, I don't know. It was quite funny. I feel like your name is just giving English.
It definitely has old English vibes. Like
English.
you definitely own like a fucking like tea and crumpet place back in like 1915.
Hello, sir. I need some tea and crumpets. Come on, Buster Bonds. Let's get rolling. All right, back to Snow White, everybody.
Anyway,
now you're
please
just making fun of
let's
Buster
move on
Barnes.
because I don't want to.
No, Buster Brown, you seem real nice. Oh, I'm not repeating that. I'm so sorry. I'm good. Hugo, Millie, I think y'all need to take this to a separate chat. That's what I think needs to happen.
I think we need a breakout room for Hugo, Millie, and John so that we can just do But Miraculous bringing us back on track. Snow White
Definitely,
has always been.
I will say, Hugo Millie is giving off Mother Russia vibes from Kick-Ass 2. That's like who I imagine is like behind.
10 out of 10.
I don't know.
Buster's like, this is offensive. Come on, Angelina, you already offended Buster. We're off to a great start on the show today.
I was just kidding. I'm never trying to offend
Nobody is.
But I mean, Miraculous, I will agree with you though. Like, this live action remake is one that's kind of hard to pull off because you have to balance so many expectations. You're adapting the oldest Disney movie. It's not one of the, and by virtue of that, the movie is, there's aspects of that movie that are pretty dated. It's also, there's been a lot of controversy when they were making the movie about like, how do you deal with the dwarves in live action? Do you animate them? Is it CGI? Do you get
CGI is crazy. If you guys have seen the trailer, I was like, what is that? Like,
it's just, it's going to be interesting to see how this works. Hugo's saying the dwarves look very they look like bat mites. I mean,
they look disgusting. They look disgusting. That's what the dwarves look like. They look gross. I hate what they look. I just imagine like, I don't know if you know Red Letter Media, but like it just reminds me of Mr. Plinkett being like, "What's wrong with your face?" I'm just imagining that for the dwarves in this movie. I'm like, ew, can you not, please? Thanks.
Yeah, Hugo Millie not Hugo. I think Miraculous in the chat is like, that CGI is uncanny. Which I agree with you on that. It's
gross.
Yeah. Like it looks like they just somebody like smushed. It's just not good. It's not good.
By the way, so John suggested that this is what Hugo Millie looks like in real life, IRL. So
yeah.
I feel like that's maybe what Hugo Millie wants to look like in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. But you know what? I think we should. Really, I'm not gonna put that one on camera.
Don't put that one on camera. I'm just saying that's the vibe I got.
Okay, all right. We're gonna just move on. And you don't need to know what John sent me just now in Slack.
I'm not sending anything. Just saying. Just goddamn, like calm down.
Boys will be boys, everybody. Yeah.
The picture didn't show up, so I didn't think it showed up. That's why I'm like, I'm just saying.
Moving on. There's your segue.
Hugo's like, that's mother. Okay, all right. Well, yes, indeed. Moving on. We had to talk about a little bit of the HBO TV slate over the next couple of years because they finally made some announcements when we're going to be getting. John, stop sending me photos.
I'm not sending you. I deleted it. I wanted to save your face. Okay, goddamn.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right. So
it's gotta be nice. You're welcome.
This particular article, guys.
Yes.
Did y'all read the article? I don't know if y'all read the article.
I skimmed it.
All right. So no.
Well, the headline talks about Euphoria, The White Lotus, and then the latest Game of Thrones spinoff or a prequel, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. But Angelina, give us a little bit more insight into basically what HBO's strategy here is moving forward, because Euphoria is 2026. I mean, we're just about getting into 2025. That's still a ways out. So what are they talking about here, and which of the shows are we gonna get first?
So originally, all of these were slated for next year, and then HBO released their teaser trailer for 2025. And guess what show was noticeably missing? Euphoria. And so people were just kind of like, what's happening? That seems real interesting, but it's really not. If you guys know, all the Euphoria stars have had a really hard time coming back together to start filming for season 3. So we're not going to be getting that until 2026 because they don't even start filming until 2025. So it's really no surprise that they're not going to try to rush filming a whole season and release it all in 1 year. So we will not be getting Euphoria, but we will
anyway
at all times. I mean, I like Euphoria, but the weird thing about that show, and I am not the only one who feels this way, once you start it, you have to finish it, and it makes me utterly fucking depressed every time.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me mentally unwell. It triggers all of my traumas. It's very strange. So, yeah. And
Yeah,
Probably the Celtics stock.
I would say instead of Euphoria, just watch Degrassi. It's a better show, and there's no porn.
You're right.
Euphoria is just Degrassi with porn. That's essentially.
I'm just waiting for like when they actually remake Degrassi, like, and they'll make it like for HBO, and then it will have all of that. I don't know.
I just feel like it's not old enough for them to remake it because realistically, Degrassi was running until I was in like middle school.
No,
they did. And the thing is, what's so funny is that the things that people praise Euphoria for, Degrassi was doing that back in like the late 90s and early 2000s.
Degrassi was more PG. Like, it was more.
They did like way better stories, like, and more progressive stuff than Euphoria.
I mean, we're gonna get the Welcome to Derry series next year too. That's another one.
Yeah,
that I'm like, okay.
And then after that, maybe Andy Muschietti will focus on the goddamn Batman movie.
Exactly,
Andrew.
maybe not. But what was announced during the sort of conference that HBO was having is that there will be a show out on HBO Max, like a big hitting show, every part of the next 2 years. They are aiming to have one big show out every quarter. So essentially, this year we got House of the Dragon, then we got The Penguin. In spring, we are going to be getting White Lotus 3, and then we're going to be getting the House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, a new series, which is the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, right?
Yeah. I mean, Game of Thrones and the House of the Dragon is the other show. But I see what you mean. Yeah,
sorry.
I don't think we're getting another season of that show for another 5 years. But like,
no, we're supposed to be getting. So this is what I was saying. They are trying to keep every show in like full rotation so that HBO Max has like, that's their new strategy. So after the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, then we get The Last of Us season 2. And then we're going to re-up. We've got Euphoria and then House of the Dragon. And essentially they're going to be like staggering these shows once every other year. So we should be getting a new season of every show like every 1 to 2 years. So that's their new strategy, which I think it's kind of cool that they've gotten to a point where they can really bank on everybody coming back because everybody loves these shows so much. Like, I don't know another channel that has as many wonderful shows as HBO. It used to be Showtime, and it's not, Papa Pedro.
I would say it was HBO. Then HBO went under.
Yeah.
And then it was Showtime, and now it's back to HBO. Because HBO was like,
I think HBO is
in the early 2000s.
Dude, but I think it's always been the HBO, you know?
No, I do think there was a long time that it was Showtime. Remember, it was like The Sopranos were on Showtime, and then...
No, The Sopranos were on HBO.
They were? But weren't they... When you want to go watch it, you have to go to Showtime, no? For a long time?
Wait, what are we talking about? I'm sorry, what?
Sopranos. That was on HBO.
No, Sopranos was always HBO. Sopranos was always
then
HBO.
what was Showtime known for?
Yeah,
there was like a solid 10 years.
No, they had a Homeland. Homeland was on
Homeland.
Showtime.
They had Dexter on Showtime.
Yep.
So don't get me wrong, Showtime had a lot of good stuff, but like HBO also had The Wire, which was like the greatest show that nobody watched, as many said. You know, there was that. I mean, HBO had a lot of goated programming back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Deadwood wasn't Deadwood on HBO?
I mean, they had The West Wing on HBO. They've had some like
House of
What was-
Cards is on HBO.
House of Cards was Netflix. That was Netflix.
House of Cards, the original one, or
yeah,
not
House
the
of-
original, but like
there was only one House of Cards. It's Netflix.
No, there's the
Are there
original
two?
British
The
miniseries.
original British. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's not HBO. That was probably an import, if anything.
wait,
yeah.
didn't that come out when I was in high school? Netflix had streaming shows when I was in high school.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was
It
like
was-
that was
the
literally the first one.
first
that was,
original.
No, Orange is the New Black was the first one.
Well, it was that. Well, it was like the
It came out around
trifecta.
the
It
I
same
was
think
time.
right. Yeah.
Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, and I think Stranger Things were like the original ones.
Oh yeah.
I think those were like the original 3 Netflix
Sorry, you
shows.
guys. Sometimes I feel like my timeline gets a little skewed when like
Nah,
I
it's
remember
fine.
certain things and then other things like
Honestly, Angelina, it like with how our perception of time has
Yeah.
been royally fucked post-COVID, it's
So-
no problem. You don't have to explain yourselves because we are all in the same
nothing
boat
makes
nowadays.
sense anymore.
It's
In the
4
land
years.
of
What do you mean
make-believe-
it's been 5 years?
What is that? Literally, what the fuck? It's been 5 years. It is crazy. It'll be 5 years in March, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm getting old.
Yeah, it would have. Yes.
I'm getting old. Everybody.
No, but look, as far as HBO's lineup goes, when you talk about like Warner Brothers trying to get back on track, you look at their TV slate, right? Like there's obviously they have like stuff like Hard Knocks. They're doing that, Boston Celtics documentary on the sports side. But then of course you've got Euphoria, you've got The White Lotus, you've got the Game of Thrones spinoffs. You've still if a Night of the Seven Kingdoms becomes a hit, then all of a sudden they've got 2 ongoing Game of Thrones spinoffs.
I just feel like there's no way that it's not going to be a hit, and it is based off of the books. And then we had sort of talked about the timeline earlier before the show, but essentially, Night of the Seven Kingdoms takes place 72 years after House of the Dragon and 100 years before Game of Thrones starts, which is a real interesting sort of so I'm interested to kind of see how they tie all of that together. They don't necessarily have to worry so much about no, that's so not true. They have to worry about everything in the timeline because they can't fuck up like so many seasons and so much chronological facts in these shows. I will be so pissed if they fuck it up. So I'm excited to see how they sort of tie all of the Westeros lore and everything together.
Yeah. I'm also I think for me next year's gonna be probably the most stacked lineup that HBO has had in a long time, and even the year after, because in 2026 you got Lanterns coming too, so DC's gonna have more of a presence. So I mean next year we've got on Max you've got Peacemaker season 2.
Remind me again, is Lanterns just gonna be on Max or is it gonna be HBO and Max?
So the approach is the same as the Penguin. It's an HBO original that's gonna stream on Max.
Okay.
It basically means the same thing. It only makes a difference to us if you happen to have linear HBO on your cable, like if you have Comcast or Spectrum or whatever, and you have HBO on your television.
Right.
Then Peacemaker will not be on HBO. It's only on Max.
The only reason I ask is Creature Commandos. That's just going to be Max, and Peacemaker season 2 is just going to be Max. So that's why I'm still kind of confused on that.
Well, no, because this is the thing. Peacemaker is a Max original. It's like when you look at the logos and the trailers, that's the giveaway.
Yeah.
But I realize it's confusing, and that's still a little weird why they do it that way. But Creature Commandos and Peacemaker are Max originals, and the Penguin was an HBO original, and Lanterns is also going to be an HBO original. So regardless of whether it's an HBO or Max original, they'll all be on Max. The only difference is if it's a Max original, it's not going to be on HBO if you have linear HBO, for your television. So, but if you're watching everything on the streaming service anyway, then you'll get them all. It doesn't really matter which is which.
So confusing.
I don't get it. I don't know why they do it. I feel like it's making it more confusing than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But what Buster Barnes said there is correct. I mean, season 2 of House of the Dragon was very well received. I personally didn't watch it as closely as season 1, so I wouldn't be able to tell you so much, Buster.
Yeah, I feel like this wasn't as good as season 1, but it was good. But it's basically all leading up. I think season 3 is going to be really where I hope. I don't know.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of, I just feel like nothing was as good as season 1. But I kind of feel that way about Game of Thrones too. Like nothing was as good as the first 5 seasons, but it is what it is. It's HBO, John. Everything from the DCU going forward will be HBO. Yeah.
It's gonna be HBO Connect.
Yeah.
Connected.
Okay. So the only thing is
because
Peacemaker season 2 is left over from the old regime, so that's going to just be Max.
No, but that's not entire. This is the thing, though. Creature Commanders is also a Max original.
When it's animated, so
right. Yeah. Well, and also
even though David Zaslav hates animation.
Yeah. Ron is like, didn't realize you all felt so strongly about it. Strongly about what? Wait, like you mean like?
We're having a discussion about Joel in Last of Us.
Oh yeah.
Like, because it's like Joel was shown as the good guy in the first game, and then Neil Druckmann hated Joel, and he started writing the main story surrounded by yes men, and he's like, I'm gonna make Joel the bad guy because I'm an asshole. So that's what happened. They made Joel the bad guy for no fucking reason, because Neil Druckmann hates Joel for no fucking reason, because Neil Druckmann is an asshole. But that's beside the point. And so if I have to deal with Joel erasure, I'm gonna start kicking people. That's what I fucking said. I'm not dealing with this. I'm not dealing with Joel erasure.
The Watcher
Last of Us Part 2,
says,
you could shove Last of Us Part 2 so far up your ass, you could taste that shit. I'm not dealing with that crap right now. I'm not dealing with that. Okay? Fuck Last of Us Part 2. It's
honestly,
a shithole game.
That might be a record. I feel like we have gone, I don't know if we've ever gone 31 minutes without a John rant. So it was about time.
I'm just saying. No, it's not Neil Junkman. It's Neil Cuckman, because he's a fucking cuck. That's what he is. So he's a little bitch boy who can't handle, Joel being an awesome good guy, because I don't know. He was all whiny like a little bitch. I don't know why. Just Neil Cuckman,
I'm
fucking
so
asshole.
happy I brought popcorn to this show today. My goodness.
But I mean, you guys are doing a good job of explaining basically the differences. Miraculous kind of mentioning again, it's the prestige of having the HBO label attached to it, right? And yeah, Lanterns will probably have a bigger budget than not Peacemaker. Well, maybe more than Peacemaker season 2 as well.
Well, to be fair, it's going to be hopefully partly in space, so there is that as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Booster Gold Out is still expected to be HBO.
Like,
quite frankly,
here's the thing.
But we'll see.
I imagine Lanterns is HBO original. And what they're saying in the chat, Booster Gold, I can imagine that'll be Max. Paradise Lost, since that's Game of Thrones-esque, that's probably going to be HBO original, because that's going to be more prestige.
They're literally comparing it to Game of Thrones for the DC.
And then Waller, that could go either way, but I can imagine that it could be HBO original. Yeah. And then I could see, like, the only one I could see is like Booster Gold being Max, because that's more like comedy and not having as much of a big budget, if I were to imagine. But
There's also the other, speaking of which, this is kind of ties into what Buster Barnes is saying. It's because it does suck that Max hasn't quite expanded out in every other part of the world. Although next year, or even towards the end of, right now and going into next year, I believe they are adding distribution in parts of Asia, Australia, and then moving into Europe as well. So hopefully in the next couple of years, you guys across the pond can get HBO Max over there as well. But in the meantime, I do believe one of the other differences that we have when it's a Max original versus an HBO original, we know the Penguin, fuck the Penguin, is going to be on physical media next year, but Peacemaker will never do that, because Peacemaker is a Max original, so they want you to go to the streaming service to watch it. So I do believe that plays a role into it. I think it's better to be an HBO original, because then you can make more money by selling the Blu-ray and steelbooks and stuff. But I think it's gonna vary over time. So far, we have seen a nice mixture of it, and we'll probably continue to see that. It's probably not the best thing to just speculate, because it's a little arbitrary, honestly, how they go about assigning the label. But nonetheless, it's good to see that Euphoria, White Lotus, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, as well as other shows such as Dune Prophecy, which is going to finish airing its first season next year, and then getting The Last of Us season 2, which I do believe.
You started watching Dune Prophecy. How do we feel about it?
I haven't watched it yet. I've been too sick to fucking do anything.
But
I have to save all my energy for this.
Yeah. I am just gonna say though, the Last of Us season 2, as far as I remember hearing, they're splitting the second game up into multiple seasons. So I don't think Joel is gonna kick the bucket in season 2. That is, of course, sorry if I spoiled that for you guys, whoever's not playing the games.
Because they have to stretch the shitty game out for 2 whole seasons because Neil Druckmann hates us.
Well, speaking of what's Max and what's HBO, what's not Max or HBO and never will be is the Arrowverse, and it's come to a close. The CW's DC era has ended officially with Superman and Lois airing its finale yesterday. So we're doing the show live on Tuesday. So the finale for season 4, the final season of the show, aired yesterday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then we did a review. So if you guys missed it, John and I reviewed the series finale of Superman and Lois, and basically an end of an era of DC television, because we're now living in a world where all the Marvel shows are going to be basically siloed over on Disney Plus, because that's like the premium, format they want to put them on, including Marvel Animation and Marvel, TV or Marvel Television. Like they've got all the logos now. Like there's a Marvel Studios logo, but then there's a version for the games and for animation and for television. Similarly, it seems like moving forward with DC Studios, a lot of the DC properties will be siloed over on streaming as well. So we're not really going to probably ever get the kind of interconnected cinematic universe that we got, from the Arrowverse, as it was affectionately called, over on the CW. So this article here kind of took all the years and multitude of seasons and series that were on the CW since basically the early 2000s, and it kind of put the numbers together, and I think it's going to be fun to kind of again look back a little bit and kind of look at it by the numbers, because it will give us a sense of, again, the size and scale of the endeavor that it was, and especially because at the peak of its prime, they had like half a dozen shows running. It was insane. So yeah, over 800 episodes right there in the head byline. But let's go down to the numbers, right? A few spoilers perhaps along the way. So if you haven't seen the finale and you don't,
it's been a day. It's been a day. It's fine.
What's so sad about this show, just before we dive into it, is that the CW doesn't really do scripted series anymore, and now
they don't.
It was over. They're not going.
It's their new ownership. It is what it is.
Like
it's really, but it really was the end of an era. Like I remember growing up watching all of my favorite shows were on the CW.
I mean, there's still some. There's still some, like Sullivan's Crossing is one. Joan is another one. I think. Did All American get renewed?
No, All American is actually one of the last ones. That's what they're saying.
But it just
Pretty Little Liars.
But they're gonna focus. Yeah, Pretty Little Liars was a big one. Vampire Diaries and Royals and all that. And all those spinoffs. But now it's just syndicated programming or like reality stuff or like the news. Like that's kind of it.
Sad.
Yeah, because it's like I remember like when I would go and record Superman and Lois, and it would be earlier in the day at like noon or 1 o'clock, there would be like 6 hours of news. And then like there would be a Big Bang episode and then Superman and Lois. And that's like, because I know Whose Line is still going, but that's like reality. There's like game shows like Trivial
I thought
Pursuit
they canceled
is a big one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I feel like Riverdale was the last of like their more, I guess, like sort of all-American Riverdale, like that sort of programming was the last of it. And then obviously they kept up with the DC programming as long as they could. But it's sad, like, just see that end.
Yeah, by the way, seeing all your comments about Dune Prophecy, some of you guys enjoying it, some of you not so much. I think it's been an okay show so far from what I've been hearing, but I'm looking forward to checking it out. It doesn't look like the movies, essentially. You could tell that, there's a lot of physical sets, but it's not shot with the same level of cinematography that the movies are. But the visuals of the show are still pretty outstanding, like Antonio said. Episode 3 just dropped. And Ron was saying Gotham Knights was like the worst DC show on the CW, and Superman Lois was the best. And then Buster Barnes, of course, telling us what is on CW now. So alongside all the news and other kinds of like reality programming, I guess maybe, I don't know if you want to put it in the same bucket, but hey, they got WWE NXT now. So if you're a fan of wrestling, then you can watch a little bit of that on the CW now. So there's that. Now, of course, let's dive into the numbers of whether you call it the Arrowverse, whether you call it the CW, DC Universe, or DC on the CW. Ron is like, Riverdale was ass. Yeah, that show was kind of hard to follow, and they had no rules.
I mean, and then I responded, that's an insult to asses. Just like
insult to asses.
Because at least asses are like they serve a point. They work. They're you know they're great at what they do. Riverdale wasn't.
Riverdale was confusing, but it did well.
I love how like in the last season they fucking like Scarlet Witched the universe and like made it back in the like and then made it look like the 50s like the original comics.
Well, I think
and then it like
trying
didn't
to,
do
like,
shit.
Make it like the comic, but like even that was so weird because they had strayed so far away from the Archie comics that it was like.
It's like finally in the last season we're doing the comics, guys, and nobody was watching. Nobody gave a fuck, and it was still written horribly. So no point.
Well,
like
okay, getting back to the Arrowverse, Riverdale is done. Like it's its own thing. The Arrowverse by the numbers, right? Let's get into it a little bit. There's not too many numbers to get through, but there are some significant ones. You look at the total number of series that aired on the CW under the DC banner. There were 10 of them. And of course, I think in here we are not counting Smallville. So starting with Arrow in October of 2012, we had a total of 10 series, including
I think
Arrow,
you're just talking about Arrowverse.
Flash, exactly, the Arrowverse. I mean, that's what the title says. Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow,
Stargirl, was not really the Arrowverse though, because
it was adjacent because after
it was retconned
the whole
into the Arrowverse.
Yeah, yeah.
But like not really. I don't count it as the Arrowverse.
I mean, even Naomi, which you remember when Ava DuVernay was gonna do a Fourth World movie or
written by Tom King. That was
the New Gods and stuff like
because it's like we're gonna do New Gods and then they like completely.
She was one of the filmmakers who got like a big deal with Warner Brothers before the WB like the merger with Discovery, and I mean that's never gone anywhere unfortunately, but yeah, 10 series, guys, that's a lot. At one point you had Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Batwoman. That's what, like, is that 5 or 6? They had like 5 or 6 shows on at one time. That's insane. The amount of work in the
quantity
Berlanti
versus
crew was
quality
doing. Yeah. that's also true. I will say there were some gems along the way, but still. 46.
There were some good moments, good episodes here and there, but it was mainly
Yeah. Well, 46 is the other number. That's the combined number of seasons across all the 10 series. Of course, The Flash ran the longest, which I didn't think that would be the longest running show, but it kind of became the flagship, especially once Arrow ended its run, which I think it was staggered by like 2 or 3 seasons, right? Like the last couple of seasons of The Flash.
That doesn't surprise me because The Flash was the one that people liked for the longest. I feel
it actually the ratings wise it did better, and then Arrow was of course the OG
because it actually felt like a comic book show rather than a guy with a bow and arrow killing people. Which
why do they view the Arrow like Arrow whatever you know what I'm talking about? Why do they view that as the very first one, but they discard Smallville? Is it just because it came out so much earlier?
Because they weren't in the Arrowverse started with Arrow, because Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, and Batwoman all take place in the same universe. Stargirl, I don't think Gotham Knights. No, Naomi definitely didn't. They all take place in like multiverse adjacent. Same as Stargirl if you count that. But Smallville was its own thing. Yeah, it was just like its own like identity.
That was probably one of the first shows. And Danny XCX. Those were probably the first shows I ever watched on the CW.
Yeah. Well, it originally started on the WB, and then when
they
that
changed the name. Yeah.
Then when Paramount and Warner Brothers had their deal with,
they merged
WB.
It was UPN. Yeah. Yep.
And then
exactly.
became CW.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and then Stargirl was on Max, and it's on Max. I think it's, and you can see it on Tubi as well. So, Antonio, you're right about that. Yeah, I mean, COVID messed up a lot of stuff, Buster. I agree with you there too. But no, it was great. I mean, Black Lightning was definitely underrated. I thought that was one of the shows that probably deserved even more acclaim than it got. Didn't maybe end the best way possible, and I don't know how well it kind of once it tried to tie it into the larger Arrowverse, it was kind of weird. The pieces didn't all quite fit, but nonetheless, 817,797. That's the combined episode total from all 10 shows. Can you imagine? That is insane. That is the total. I'm like, what? Is that even a real number? Like, I don't get it. Like, that's insane. Like, you look at the numbers of like Law and Order, 1,363 episodes. NCIS 1,249. Oh my God. The Supergirl's first season, which spanned 20 episodes, aired on CBS. That's true. And then they cut the budget and moved it over to the CW because it went from filming in LA to Vancouver. That is insane. Is that is that even? I can't believe that's. Is that the right number? There's no way. 817,000. Oh, wow, that is crazy. Okay. 699, the number of episodes among the 6 core shows. Those are the ones that I mentioned earlier. They kind of aired together. Of course, the big trinity was Arrow, The Flash, and Supergirl. That was the DC trinity on the small screen. And then the Legends of Tomorrow were a lot of the characters that people want to see more of. Then we had Black Lightning, which we were just talking about. Batwoman was a show that had its fair share of controversy, but it still persevered through all of that. And then Superman and Lois, once that came on, it just sort of became the flag bearer because by that time the Flash was sort of down the hill. Arrow was done, and then it sort of took center stage for the last few years. Now, of course, there were 6 multi-series crossover events. John, did you have a favorite? Did you think they all sucked? I mean, for me, the one where the Supergirl and Arrow were evil, was that what, I forget the name. I think that was the one that
Crisis on Earth X.
I enjoyed that one more than Infinite Earths, but
wait, huh? What? Who?
No, there was Crisis on Infinite Earths was such a fucking disappointment. That was just terrible because it was so funny. We were promised Reverse Flash in both in Earth X, where he's like, "See you in the next crisis," and then in the newspaper, it said that Reverse Flash was going to be followed by Shadow Demons, which was from the original comic, and we didn't get any of that. And it's just like, no, we just got John Diggle's wife in a unitard, and it's like, okay, great. Like, really? We just got Wave Rider bullshit, and then we got like the greatest fucking Superman outfit ever put to screen, and it got yeeted after 2 seconds because they had to keep shoving John Cryer's Lex Luthor into everything, and it's just like, this is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, that was a bad decision.
Don't get me wrong. I think I was surprised that John Cryer did like a semi-decent job. Like, he felt very much like a Silver Age Lex Luthor. But like the fact that they got rid of Brandon Routh and just inserted John, it's like, come on. Oh, because he scribbled on the fucking like hieroglyphs. Like, really? It's just like, oh god, this is so bad.
The Watcher. I don't know, Buster, how serious you are about this, but definitely do let us know. We would love for you to disclose that information. The Watcher saying Stargirl was, in his opinion, the best CW show, but you have to watch Superman and Lois, and I think then your opinion may change. Who knows? Kevin Davis saying people rooting for James Gunn DC to win, noticing people rooting for Captain America: Brave New World to fail at the box office. Anthony Mackie doesn't deserve that at all. I agree with you. I think we should look ahead to every project and
I don't
hope
want
it to succeed.
Fail, but it's just like it doesn't look good. The amount of reshoots, the amount of budget, it just doesn't look.
Yeah,
like
it's giving Mrs. Marvel or the Mrs. Marvel. Is that it?
No, Captain Marvel.
What was the 3? The
Marvels. Yeah,
there you go. It's giving that. Remember the one I can't even remember the name of it because I didn't go see that movie because it looked fucking awful. Yeah, that one.
And also, you know what? I'll be honest with you. In hindsight, I do enjoy watching that musical crossover that they did between Supergirl and The Flash. Not something I would watch all the time, but I had fun with it. Like, I wasn't a big fan of it at the time, but I've enjoyed it in recent times. Miss Marvel, by the way, Ron's saying Miss Marvel represent. Yes, Miss Marvel was. I think Miss Marvel is the best show Disney Plus has done on the MCU side, but I agree with you, Ron. And Antonio saying you told them about Justice League type budget from 2016 when they did all of them reshoot. We saw how that worked out. Yeah, the Arrowverse always had a smaller budget, so they tried to do the best with what they had. By the way, Just Keep Filming, thanks for chiming in the chat. We did a couple of episodes actually fan casting for the DCU Batman. So if you search through our playlist on DCU Daily, you'll definitely find that. I personally think that right now it's kind of hard to tell because we really don't know what the direction they're going to go in outside of just the fact they're introducing Damian Wayne in there. But it's going to be an older Batman. So we have gone through a few names, and I'm sure, John, do you have a favorite for the DCU Batman, or would you just defer to the casting that you did?
Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know.
That's not a bad pick. But hey, there is one more number here. So The last number I wanted to look at was 12,53. That is 12 years and 53 days that the CW had a DC series on its roster, dating from the premiere of Arrow on October 10, 2012 to the ending of Superman and Lois on December 2nd. Of course, again, not counting Smallville because it sort of like then goes into the era.
I know, but like people still count that because it was the first DC show on CW and like introduced everything.
That's true.
Through that,
fair.
but it's not an Arrowverse show. I get it. So it's
exactly.
You know.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, with that in mind, of course, you know that was the Arrowverse by the numbers. I mean, some of these numbers are mind-boggling. You look back at it, and I think if you were part of that era, if you were one of the actors, one of the people working behind the scenes, if you were part of the Berlanti productions, or if you were even on the the Warner Brothers DC side of things, you look back at it and you say, you know what, it had its ups and downs, and it wasn't necessarily the best thing that we ever did. Not every episode was the greatest. Like we could have had a better budget, but all in all, I think it did a lot more than it ever had any right to do, considering what they had at their disposal in terms of the resources they were given. And the Arrowverse is still quite the accomplishment. I don't think Marvel has ever had anything like it. I don't think we're going to get anything from DC like it in the future. So the Arrowverse is singularly, probably the most expansive cinematic franchise on television from the comic book world that we are ever going to see. And that's something to marvel at, or something to look back on fondly. So let us know, of course, guys. That was the news. If what you guys think about the Arrowverse, or you look back at it fondly, or is that something that you're thinking about? You know what? Mostly it sucked, but we would love to hear from you now. Mostly. But hey, we're gonna keep the ball rolling because we have to move on to the movie of the week. So let's start that now, because Moana, of course, is breaking all kinds of box office records. Moana 2, that is. And it's already crossed over $400 million in less than a week at the box office. So coming up next, we're going to review Moana 2. We're going to talk about its box office success. And then after that, we've got DCU Daily. So stick around because we got lots of James Gunn related news to talk about. Creature Commandos, Peacemaker Season 2. And of course, we also have to talk about how much praise James Gunn has for the new Superman, David Cornsweet, who he thinks can do pretty much everything. So let's move on to the Moana 2, and then we're going to go on to DCU Daily after that.
You were gone forever.
It was 3 days. Moana, you need a crew. It's the other side of the ocean.
How could I ask them to?
Our people will rise if you let them.
I am Moana Motunui. What if you don't come back?
The ocean connects us. There is nowhere I could go that I won't be with you.
Moana 2, it's a box office phenomenon. It's already well on its way to making at least $500 million and potentially $1 billion at the box office. If the early numbers are any indication, it just blew away all kinds of Thanksgiving records over the course of the 5-day opening weekend that it had last week, and it's still going strong. So it's a sequel to, of course, the movie that came out, I believe in 2018. It's been a while. But it was the original movie was the highest streaming movie on Disney Plus last year, and while Moana 2 was originally meant to be like a mini series or a limited series on Disney Plus, they decided that, you know what, we need to put this thing out in a movie theater. Let's kind of recut it as a movie. And so far the decision has been paying off. So let's dive into it. I know that you guys, I think, watch Moana 2. I don't know about John so much.
I'm out. Peace.
All right, John, we'll see you around. But like Angelina, you did watch Moana 2, so I want to get your thoughts on the movie. You've seen the first one, you've seen the second one. Obviously, I want to know how you compare the two. The second one does not have Lin-Manuel Miranda because originally this, like I said, was meant to be a limited series on Disney Plus. So Lin-Manuel Miranda was tied into, I think he's working on Elio, which is a Pixar movie. And naturally it would make sense for him at the time because this wasn't a theatrical release. Now that it is a theatrical release.
He's also working on Mufasa, right?
Mufasa, right. So he's been tied up with a lot of other projects that seem to be on the surface at least bigger. But now that Moana is in theaters, people are wondering, like, where is the music? I mean, the music, it seems like to me that everything I've heard is not quite at the same level. But before we get into that, I want to get your opinion on the movie overall, and then you can talk to us about the music, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about the movie.
Yeah, I think ultimately, I think you guys know how I feel about Lin-Manuel Miranda. If you don't remember, I honestly think he's like the Mozart of our generation. I have felt that way for a really long time. Obviously, he was the composer and the writer for In the Heights, and then he did Hamilton, which is still going strong on Broadway. I mean, Hamilton was just such an exceptional piece of art. And then he stepped into Moana, and that was one of the most beautiful musical scores Disney has had in so long. It was just such a good score. And I know he's been a part of other projects. Now he's working on Mufasa. But I really do think that this movie, the hierarchy of Moana, is about to change.
It's a reference to The Rock. Don't mind. It's like the Black Adam.
I was like, huh? But it's so sad because I think music is so tied to Disney's stories. And it was just so obvious that Moana 2's musical score fell so short. No, you cannot be in the chat talking shit, John. Come out here and say it to my face, okay? My goodness. But John is talking shit. He doesn't agree with me that Lin-Manuel Miranda is the Mozart of our generation. Clearly,
he's not man enough to talk shit on camera, so yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
He ain't fucking Mozart. He's a lot of things. Don't get me wrong. He's very good. He's very talented.
Have you seen Hamilton?
Mozart. He is fucking not. You're comparing one of the greatest composers who's ever fucking lived to a guy who can write some good music sometimes.
You look. No, that's just incorrect. I just don't think you realize how much he has changed.
He's good. He's very good. But like Mozart is like the bar.
Mozart had syphilis and was absolutely crazy when he wrote Amadeus. So like, I don't even want to talk about it.
Okay. And wait, are you implying that Mozart wrote the movie?
No. Sorry. The whole Amadeus was all about the last work that Mozart wrote.
No, I know. I've seen it.
And I don't remember the name of it. I did study classical music in school, so I do feel
clearly.
Look, I'm not about to break out my opera skills right now. We're not doing it. But getting back to the point. So Moana 2's musical score just felt really short for me. It was really sad. I feel like you felt his absence the whole movie through all of the scores, especially because Disney uses music to tell stories so much. And when it doesn't quite live up to its predecessor, it doesn't hit all the emotional marks. Like, Disney still knows how to tell a story, and they still do a good job, right? Like, Moana 2 is like a good movie, but it's not a great movie. It is not Frozen. It is not the original Moana. It's not Encanto. Like, it doesn't make me feel on a deeper level. It doesn't make me cry. It was just good. It just fell short of Disney's sort of dynasty, if you will.
It's almost as if, Frozen 2, a lot of people said the same thing, right? But it made like $1 billion. So I'm just like, is just being good enough? Like, because clearly it's
okay. I think you have to think about the fact that when there is a sequel to a movie that Disney made that really changed the game, like obviously Moana was one of the first stories to tell a story about Hawaiian culture. Like, it really offered. It offered so many like cultural nuances, and it was so beautiful. And I think you get to see even more of that in Moana 2. Like, you've got people, obviously Hawaiians are like a mixture of so many different ethnicities, right? And that's what makes them Hawaiian. It's like you've got Polynesians, and you've got this, and you've got that, and it's like this beautiful sort of melting pot which creates Hawaiian culture. And you get to see more of that in Moana 2. I will say that you get different accents. Like, you've got New Zealand accents. You've got like normal Hawaiian accents. I really appreciate the graphics and the artwork that goes into these projects. I mean, just like Disney still has like some of the best animations out there ever. I love that they brought back the original cast. I did have questions about whether or not the grandma was the original cast because I don't remember her sounding like that, but like I didn't do the research to look it up. But and the story wasn't terrible. It just the movie kind of fell short for me, and I think that has to do with the music. Like I think so many. Again, I just think the music is so integral to like Disney's performance, and I think the only reason Moana 2 is doing as well as it is doing in the box office is because they wanted it to be like Moana 1. And a 4-year-old is not going to tell you, well, the music wasn't as good as the first movie, but it was still good. Like, they're just not going to do that.
Fair.
They're just going to say, I want to go see Pua again. So it makes sense to me that the box office is doing as well as it's doing because the first movie really set the stone. And I feel like Lin-Manuel Miranda should receive royalties on Moana 2, even though he didn't write the music for it, because the only reason it's doing as well is because the first movie was genius.
Well, I mean, doing as well, again, it's a relative term, right? Like, if you didn't enjoy it as much, that's one thing. But as far as if it's doing well or not, yes, the critic score is lower, 63%, but the audience score is 87%. It's really, really high. And while the movie may not be as well received, when you look at the box office, as I've been mentioning all show long, it's already crossed $400 million worldwide, and it's I think it's gonna be in its 7th day tomorrow. So we're doing this on a Tuesday, so the movie hasn't even been in theaters for a full week because it came out last Wednesday for an early Thanksgiving week release. And when you look at it after I'm gonna read this from the article from Deadline directly. They say after 6 days of release worldwide, Disney's record-breaking Moana 2 stands at 404.5 million, which now passes this year's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which at that moment in time, 6 days in, was at 397.4 million, and Bad Boys Ride or Die, which is a fourth movie in that franchise, that was at 404.5 million, which is about the same. But it's already gone up to being the 9th movie of the year, and you can tell this movie's on its way to make
I do think that
$1 billion. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it is easily like just short of $1 billion movie, especially with, I mean, we only have one movie coming out next week. Like, I don't think anything's really coming out that's more family friendly until Sonic 3 comes out in 2 weeks. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that this will be $1 billion movie.
It's got the runway. I mean, when you look at the original movie in 2016, I thought it was 2018. It's actually 2016. Like, holy cow, it's been a long time. That movie made 643.3 worldwide, of which 248.7 was domestically. That is already going to be out the door. 394 overseas is also going to be approachable. When you look at the numbers already, it's sitting at 231 million domestic, 172 internationally. The first few days it was out, it wasn't even out in most markets. It released in like 10 or so markets, including the US. But look at that number, 404 million. It's been less than a week. It's opened to one of the biggest openings of the year. I believe only it's only had 2 movies that opened to higher numbers this year. Deadpool Wolverine being the highest at 211 million. So the box office numbers are there. The movie is received well enough. Like you said, like, most kids are not going to distinguish like, oh yes, the songs in the first one were way better. I mean, yes, they were iconic. They were memorable. You can still recite them to this day. People will, randomly burst into song from the first Moana. It's not the same thing here, but they're working on a live action one. They've announced that there's going to be a third Moana movie, so this has firmly become a franchise for Disney. And when you were talking about how it's not very often that the second movie becomes more memorable than the first, I think the last time I saw a Disney animated movie where the second movie really blew me away compared to the first one even was Toy Story 2. I thought Toy Story 2 was a huge improvement over the first one, and it's to this day one of the best.
There were a big length of time between those two movies too.
There was, I mean, the animation on the first one, you could tell some animation is so rough because it was like one of Pixar's first movies. But nowadays, I mean, I think to me an example in live action is like 22 Jump Street, which was like to me it was way better than 21 Jump Street, so memorable. But it's rare that you see a sequel that does way better than the first one. I think Bad Boys 2, in my opinion, was a better movie than the first one, but that's a pretty low bar. I think the last two have been actually the best in the franchise. And yes, Antonio's saying, remember, there's still other countries that have to open up. and that's why it's going to get $1 billion.
So true. I think
there's still markets that it's not
$1 billion movie.
exactly. So yes. And then the Watcher saying you have to look at The Incredibles as essentially an anthology. The first one is about Bob. Second one is about Helen. The third, well, there's 3 kids, right? So yes, they are making a third Incredibles, and the amount of time that's passed between them, it's been a long time. No, come on, TC24. The Incredibles 2 it wasn't trash. It was fun. I definitely think the first Incredibles is. If anybody tells you any different, I don't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, John is agreeing in our private chat that Moana 2 is definitely gonna be a $1 billion movie. But again, this is the perfect time of the year. It's the time of the year when you go out to the movies and you bring your whole family along, and it's just a perfect opportunity to watch a movie like this, a 4-quadrant film that is Moana 2.
Brother never told you never threaten a man's family?
I just don't
that
know.
was prompted. That I'll just say that was prompted by Ron. I had to give Ron. You gotta get the people what they want. That's essentially how that works.
Don't understand why.
But hey, Moana 2. If you haven't seen it already, let us know. Well, if you have seen it already, of course, let us know what you thought about it. And if you haven't, then are you more excited about it now that Angelina has told you pretty much that it's not as good as the first? But I mean, would you say, Angelina, that it's worth watching in a movie theater, or would you wait?
Well, originally this movie was supposed to go straight to streaming, which actually was
it was going to be a limited series as a streaming series on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I found that really interesting that they were ever considering that, and I guess that's actually why Lin-Manuel Miranda decided not to take it, which I didn't know. And I think it's really
he did Mufasa instead. The upcoming Mufasa movie.
I'm just like, why did you ever think that was gonna, like, I guess maybe they were trying to pull like a Lilo and Stitch series because they were able to get so many years out of that, but like this is not the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so confused. But
yeah,
that's funny as hell. Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you.
Well, guys, let us know in the comments down below what you thought of Moana 2. Did you see it? Are you excited to see it? Have you seen it multiple times? Do you think it's better than the first one, or is this one that you're deciding to skip in the theater and wait till it gets to Disney Plus? Hit that like button, subscribe, of course, and hit that notification bell so you know when we have a new review going up, as we always do each and every week. We review at least one movie, sometimes 2. But with that said, guys, we're going to switch gears and let's welcome you all into another episode of DCU Daily. Of course, as always, we've got so much to talk about from the world of DC because, well, James Gunn, is out there promoting. Right now, he's promoting Creature Commandos, but I'm sure he's going to be promoting Superman soon enough. And between all of those things, we've just got a ton of news to talk about. And James Gunn did an interview with the Hollywood Reporter recently, alongside the co-creator of Creature Commandos, who, by the way, also is the showrunner on Harley Quinn. So I don't know if that changes John's opinion on him.
Gross.
Speaking of which, John, how are you doing today? And are you looking forward to Creature Commandos? It's less than 2 days away.
I am reasonably excited. Well, for us, it's a day away. Well, a day and 2 hours away, technically. But yeah, I'm reasonably excited for it. I wish it just wasn't just Suicide Squad again, even though James Gunn keeps saying it's not. I'm like, it kind of is. And so, I'm reasonably excited for that, and I think we could be getting something truly, fun. Like, it gives us a good wide range of yes, indeed. I feel like from what we've seen from the responses, was it yesterday? Or 2 days ago, I don't even remember. Again, similar Angelina, the times and what we do, I don't know. But when we were talking about like the responses, like because the embargo lifted, how they were like each character gets its own episode and like each of them gets development. I was like, I really liked that. But I mean, I like Frank Grillo. I like Varma, Harbor, Tudyk. God's gift to humanity. I like Sean Gunn. I think he can be funny. I just wish he had an identity outside of his brother. But I think you know, the appetizer we are getting in, you know, in a day, well, for people on the East Coast, a day. But you know, I think it's I'm not gonna, you know, last time I got too excited over a DC project, it was the Batman, and I'm like, look how that turned out. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to get
What do
too
you wait?
excited.
What? The Batman?
The Batman. I got, here's the thing, I overhyped myself and then I got disappointed. That's what happened.
I thought it was. I mean, okay, fair enough.
Good,
I get
but
it.
I was expecting like the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that was the consequences of my own actions, essentially.
Okay.
So
That's fair.
I do. I'm reasonably excited. I like the animation. I like the vibe. And I like, you know, I can't wait for Frank Grillo in a voice booth moaning like when that episode comes out. So James Gunn, you promised us that. I want to fucking see that. Like, cause I can't imagine, like, okay, I think we talked about this like way before, but it was like the chick who played Lara Croft in the reboot Tomb Raider series, how she would have like a prompt where she was like, okay, you get stabbed while getting run off a cliff while on fire, go. And it's like, how do you do that? Like, how the fuck do you do that? And it's just like, I can't imagine like Frank Grillo, he's like, I'm in a booth with my character having sex with someone, and I have to provide the voice work for that. I can't imagine. Like, God bless him. I mean, he's getting paid, so like,
I mean, I'm sure he can draw on his own experience. You know.
I'm sure, but like, I mean, I'm sure like Frank Grillo's drowning in puss, but like, it's just like awkward doing it for like, not pleasure. You're doing that like as a job. Like you're doing that at least with like porno actors. They're like doing it like, you know, they're playing it up. They're still on camera. But like with animation, it's just weird. And, like you're in a booth, you're wearing like sweats,
you just gotta go. Okay.
And it's just like it's weird. I don't know. It's just like I can't imagine doing that. It's just like. But you know what? He did it.
You gotta leave a little bit to the imagination, John. When you you know, it's like with the analogies, like it's just anyway. But so far the reviews are good. But this particular interview with the Hollywood Reporter, I think, was insightful because there's some things that James Gunn says in there which we know about, if you have heard before. Then there's other things in here that I was surprised by. So I wanted to kind of call your attention to a few of these. Of course, it wasn't just him. It was also showrunner Dean Lowry that was part of the interview. And yes, he does say that, you know what, that Justice League and the DCU they don't exist yet. So that's why the little tag at the end of Peacemaker season 1 is not going to be canon to the DCU.
Mm-hmm.
But then let me kind of call your attention. Of course, this was a whole Q&A session. So there's a couple of questions I wanted to kind of particularly call your attention to. So let's see here. They talked about how, of course, you know, not everybody was able to be in the voice booth together, but they were able to get a few of the actors together. So here they ask him about, should we treat the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker season 1 as a prologue or as prologues to the DCU? To which he said, yes, they are light canon. So, of course, here is specifically saying that both the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, so not just Peacemaker season 1, but also the Suicide, because we've been speculating there. And then I think it was The Watcher or Ron or somebody, I forget, some of you guys on the chat have been calling it, they're like, it's light canon. So with Peacemaker, he's saying it's pretty straightforward, with the exception of the Justice League appearance at the end. They don't exist yet, but the rule is if he mentioned something from the past in one of the new shows or movies, then it has happened, and that's how they're dealing with it. So it's just, again, now we know that not only Peacemaker season 1, but also the Suicide Squad, they're both light canon to the new DCU. So that was interesting for me. What was also interesting is, again, Dean Lowry talking about how James Gunn wrote the 7 episodes of Creature Commandos, and he was very closely involved with the production of all 7 episodes. He was getting, he was giving notes, he was getting the set daily sessions from the voice recording booths, and of course he's looked at the artwork and the animation, the animatics and everything. So Laurie talks about how it was just one-stop shopping because he was dealing directly with the studio head, who's also happened to have written the show. What do you think, John? The idea here that James Gunn is again creating an environment that kind of feels similar in some ways to what he was used to at Marvel, where when you're talking to Kevin Feige is the main man. Like, there's nobody above Kevin Feige who's going to be able to give you
Technically,
any more of an
Lobo is the
answer.
main man.
But I'm just, well, fair. But, until he arrives in the DCU, I guess we're stuck with James Gunn. So, and James Gunn saying the same thing, it's something good that he got from Marvel, where then you work on a movie, the director's voice, the studio's voice, and the producer's voice, it's all, working in a situation where he could talk directly to Kevin Feige and get, his questions answered. Lowry now is talking to James Gunn, who is the studio head. Do you feel like that creates a greater, degree of freedom for somebody like Dean Lowry as a showrunner to be able to kind of make decisions because he's able to go directly to the source like James Gunn, and not have to go through like layers of hierarchy, let's call it, or middle management to get an answer?
The hierarchy of the DCU is about to change.
But yeah, what are your thoughts? Again, Dean Lowry being somebody who's already worked on another DC animated show with Harley Quinn, now he's working directly with James Gunn on Creature Commandos.
I mean, you know what? Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. You know how it is. Like, I don't think that's something to worry about, but it's like, as long as like James Gunn's like, okay, I have a million other things to fucking do. So you handle this, but like, if you don't follow this way, I'm gonna take you around back and just old yeller your ass if you don't fucking get the way I want this show to be. So I feel like that's something. What the fuck?
I don't know. This is the chat's getting weird now.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case. But yeah, so that's more hopeful that it is James Gunn's baby and like Laurie is kind of the middleman. So yeah, I will say, like, with how it's like, that's simple. With how James Gunn worded it at that panel at New York Comic Con, it's just like he just made something simple way more complicated than it needed to be. So it's just like they have similar vibes, they have similar continuities. It's just one is vast, one has different shit. Like Superman is not already established. This one's younger. This one has this thing, the other has that thing. So yeah, like I don't think continuity needs to be like, oh my God, like it's fine. Just like roll with the punches. We're going to do what we want to do. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So it's just fun to again see the collaboration has been good, and it looks like Dean Lowry Laurie might be sticking around for other shows. And
it might be Lowry, it might be Laurie. I don't know.
I feel like they've written it two different ways in this article, but anyway. James Gunn also saying that, hey man, the way he's been going the last few years, it's not sustainable. So that's something that he's definitely going to look into, maybe stepping back from directing so many things and maybe, letting other creatives kind of step in and being more of a studio head, which I don't blame him. We have talked about it. The man does 1,000 things all at once. It's insane how he is, got the stamina to do that still. It's not like he's a fresh off the pine. The dude has been in Hollywood for a long time, and you'd imagine that he's done a lot of projects that he where he's had his dream come true. Like he's got the best job in the world if you're a fan of DC or of comics essentially. So yeah, hopefully James Gunn can kind of step back a little bit with the pace of work that he's putting into the early beginnings. It's good now that he puts his imprint on the universe early, but then maybe he can let other directors and creatives kind of step in and do more of the heavy lifting, at least on the day-to-day basis, like directing movies and TV shows. But yeah, as far as other things that were noticeable here, this was interesting. So this is something from the thumbnail actually on today's show. G.I. Robot, this is the question. G.I. Robot, played by Sean Gunn in live action, would be quite something, says the interviewer. He says, has that subject been broached in some capacity? And then Gunn answers saying, yeah, we have talked about all of these characters in live action and how we would do them if we did them in live action. I don't want to give away any secrets. This is from James Gunn himself, but he says, but we use some technology in Superman that's completely new in regards to this kind of stuff, so we would know exactly how to do G.I. Robot. So my question to you is, John, is he saying without saying that we're gonna get GI Robot and Superman, or are we getting another character? Like, which other character would you use the same technology to bring to life in live action that you would use for GI Robot?
I don't think that's it at all. Well, we got to think of metallic things, and like
Mm-hmm.
GI Robot, maybe he's insinuating that Lex Luthor gets a mech suit. That's something. It could be implying that the engineer's skin, which is kind of metallic, which is kind of like a T-1000 thing, they might be talking about that. I think, they could be just like talking about like various things that are like metallic skinned with people and mocap. So I think that's all it is. I don't think it has anything to do with like, oh, we're getting GI Robot. I know Alan Tudyk had a mystery role in Superman, but I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think so. I don't think GI Robot's gonna be it. Now I can eat crow if I'm wrong. That's fine. But it just doesn't make sense. Like, again, this would just add ammunition to the idea that there's too many characters. It's like you already have like the Terrifics or whoever the fuck they're gonna be called. You have, you have Rick Flag, you have like this Ultraman clone thing that may or may not be a thing. And then, you have the engineer, which is, teasing the Authority. And it's just like, all right, let's not have more and more characters. I think Alan Tudyk might be playing Will Magnus. That would make sense. Like that out of the 3 characters he's playing, I think that would make the most sense, but like I don't think Sean Gunn is I think Sean Gunn is just strictly playing Maxwell Lord, and that's kind of it. So I don't think we're going to be getting any GI Robot. I think he's just like teasing the technology which might be used for like a mech suit for Lex Luthor or engineer or the engineer's character. I think that's it. I don't think we're getting GI Robot.
That's look, it's gonna be fun if he did get the GI Robot, but also I want to now see the behind the scenes look at like what technology are they using, like how is it different from what we already know about VFX tech. So how is that going to play a role in bringing GI Robot to life? Because I definitely think they're going to do that eventually, if not in Superman and another project. By the way, before we keep going, guys, hit that like button while you're watching. It really helps us out. I know it's like a small little click, but it gives us a chance to be in front of more people and hopefully continue to grow the community that we have here. And again, James Gunn was asked about, hey, do you plan on bringing these characters into live action and having them be played by the same, actors who voiced them? He's like, absolutely, 100%, no doubt about it. So that's great to see. And again, he's asking about, he was asked about the consistency between animation and live action. And I thought his answer here was really, really clever and maybe even some insightful because the way he talks about the metahumans, he says that's right. There will be he's still aiming for that consistency between animation and live action. Everything is very consistent in terms of the politics of the world and where the world is at and what's going on. And this is the key part. Who are the metahumans in power? Who are the metahumans not in power? Who are the power brokers? Who are not the power brokers?
Bottoms? That's the real question.
Right. That's what Also Curious After Dark, John. So we see a glimpse of it here, James Gunn says, but we see more of it in Superman and Peacemaker. So what do you think here? Again, the way he talks about it, metahumans, power brokers, we have talked about in this universe, it seems like we're going to get a combination of things like, different, corporations that kind of run the world or have influence and have superhero teams. And of course, they're metahumans. So it's not going to be like Man of Steel, where the only superhero at the time is Superman. They're gonna have so many other characters. How do you think like this translates into the larger DCU? Do you think this is James Gunn hinting at the idea that Lex Luthor is gonna be sponsoring some kind of a superhero or metahuman lineup of individuals, the Terrifics maybe, or how is Maxwell Lord gonna be involved? Is this just more confirmation for you, or this is just too vague? And again, James Gunn's just kind of hinting at things that we may or may not get.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of vague teasing. Like that's what James Gunn loves to do. He's just loves teasing his audience. Like that's really how it is. So I think it's just like we're just kind of getting light things because I feel like James Gunn is smarter than people give him credit for. Like, as like he said, like I wouldn't be filming like when we were doing like all the stuff back in July, where he's like, I wouldn't be fucking filming all this shit if I think there were spoilers. So like,
Yeah.
come on now. So yeah, you know, I think that's really what it is.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's also like he was, you know, talking about how they tried to get as many of the actors in the voice booth together, but obviously with scheduling, they couldn't do that for everybody, and it's not necessary when you're just voicing the characters. But maybe when they're in live action, you will see a few more of them cross paths in real life. Then, of course, he was asked about, you know, where's Peacemaker and where's Superman at? To kind of end the interview, you know, you get that one question that's not related to the project at hand. So that's the interviewer chose to ask about both Peacemaker and Superman. And the Gunn responded, I feel great. Superman is an enormous bear of a movie. It's completely different from this show in every way, but it's very much fantastic as well. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, David Cornsweet is going to freak everyone out with how great he is. He's one of the best actors I've ever worked with, and he can do everything. The man is incredible. And then season 2 of Peacemaker is also going to take people by surprise. We take a very different route than the first season, and it's a really magical story that people are going to be blown away by. Frank Grillo, of course, is a major part of that, and Superman as his character Rick Flag Sr. from Creature Commandos. So, John, 2 questions for you. One, do you think the hype is a little too much that David Cornsweet is one of the best actors he's ever worked with? He's incredible. He can do everything from the bottom of his heart. He loves the guy. And then B, what does he mean when he say that it's a really magical story in season 2 of Peacemaker? Is this literal? Is this just him, you know, kind of hyperbole? Like, what do you think James Gunn means by that?
I think, you know, it's just like blessed from the start kind of thing. From the start, blessed from the start. I think, but the thing is, like, that's what he's kind of has to do. Like, you gotta fucking sell your movie, right? You gotta be like, again, he's not gonna come out and say, "Oh yeah, David Cornsweet, this dude fucking sucks, bro. Like, this movie is terrible. This is a hard like." Of course, he's not gonna fucking say that. So might as well go the other way and over exaggerate because that's what you got to do to sell your movie to people. Like, this dude's fucking amazing. This dude will rock your socks off. He's going to be magical. He's going to be fucking amazing. He's going to be the greatest fucking Superman you've ever fucking witnessed in your entire the goddamn life. That's what you got to do. He's like, that's what like directors and producers kind of are. They're salesmen. They got to sell their movie. So a lot of people go out and see it. Like, you know, because some people, yeah, a lot of us will be like, kind of look through it and be like, all right, dude, calm down. But then there's people that are, I don't want to say they're like idiots or something, but people who are like, you know, not as familiar with stuff like we are, who like do this every day and like, you know, dissect shit all the time. It's, you know, it's gonna be like, wow, this man, he's really selling this. I think I might go watch this now. And you know, like people are gonna get like kind of entranced with that and kind of Kevin Conroy too. So they're kind of like entranced with like, oh yeah, this David Cornsweet. I don't know who he is, but like this guy is saying the guy who did Guardians is saying he's really good. Well, now I think I gotta watch this movie. So, you know, I feel like there are going to be people that buy into the idea of like, okay, this dude sounds really. Oh, I saw Twisters. I saw how great he was in that. I watched that movie. What was it? Natalie Portman. I forget what it was. He had a beard.
The first thing I saw him in was Twisters. I haven't seen him.
He was in this other movie where it's like his son died or his daughter died, and he was like a supporting character. I forget what movie it was. Yeah. So I think
Thank you, Captain Obvious. No,
yeah. So I think people are like gonna definitely be like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really great.
Well, I mean, I'm excited to see if he's being literal that indeed Peacemaker season 2 is going to be magical in some way. Then, you know, maybe introducing the concept of, you know, magic or like, you know, more of the mystical realm this early in the DCU will bode well for getting characters like Black Adam and Shazam into the world as well. But Angelina, I wanted to ask your opinion because you're not on with us like 5 days a week like John and I usually are talking about DC
Yeah, you
all
have
the time.
a life. You're doing like real world shit. We're just stuck in here.
Speak for yourself, John. I've got a life outside. But anyway, Angelina, are you looking forward to
other life? Is like 17 other jobs you have.
That's fair.
Well, I'm excited about Superman. I kind of agree with John. Like, it'd be really weird if James Gunn was like shitting on Superman before it even came out. I'd be like, that doesn't bode well for anybody. But I don't really have anything to base David Cornstalk on. I do think it's kind of an interesting fact, whoever dropped that he went to the same acting school as Christopher Reeve. So I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, Juilliard. They both went to Juilliard.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I mean, a lot of the actors out. Yeah.
That's what you're.
Robin Williams. I mean, that was famously where he and Christopher Reeve met. So.
Yeah. I said, yeah, moving on. No. I don't know. I don't care as much about DCU as you guys do. I'm so sorry. But, I'm excited for James Gunn. Obviously, he has already a pretty prolific career, and I'm assuming that he'll continue to keep it going. So I'm excited to see if this Superman sucks. I fucking give up. Do you understand? I give up.
That's another friend of mine. He's like, he's like, James Gunn has one chance. If this movie sucks, I'm not watching the rest of DC. Fuck this shit. Which is fair. That's 100% fair.
At this point, I've seen too many shitty ass DCU movies, and I'm over it.
That's how I was with the MCU after I watched Thor shit and blunder, where I'm like,
isn't that where you still
I can't fucking watch this shit anymore. I can't. Can't watch this garbage anymore.
But I think TC24 also pointing out where I think David Cornstalk has been on a TV show recently on Apple TV Plus, Lady in the Lake. Yeah. Well,
I think that's the thing I was describing. Yes,
is that what you're talking
Buster
about?
Barnes. Yeah. It was TV. Okay. Buster Barnes also mentioned Pearl, which was excellent with Mia Goth, because that was like, I saw that movie like, I don't know, I think it was like right before or right after he got cast. And so when I watched it, or like I had just watched it, and I'm like, he plays like a Midwest kind of guy. It's in the Midwest, and I'm like, he definitely had that like Midwest charm that like I think Clark would have. So I think he really sold that very well. I mean, very different role. I mean, he's kind of like an overly charismatic, kind of sexy dude in that movie, but I think I think he definitely. So I'm like, okay, I let him cook. Let him cook.
And we'll just see how it goes.
Exactly. You know what? James Gunn is also cooking. He's cooking up a new presence of DC Studios on YouTube, and also they just launched an official podcast for DC Studios. I'm like, why didn't they just come to us? Like, we are already here, James. But anyway, DC Studio. I felt like, James, I thought we were special. Introducing DC Studios Showcase. The official
By the way, is she trying to pull like
podcast.
a Kevin Smith or something? Because with the hockey jersey, I feel like that's what she's trying to do. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I've never seen her before personally, but like,
I've never seen her either. But whenever I see like a nerdy hockey jersey because it has the Wonder Woman logo, I automatically think of Kevin Smith because he wears like nothing but nerdy hockey jerseys. I feel like that's the vibe she's trying to get, which is like cool. Kevin Smith is like, like a big mainstream nerdy guy, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
yeah, and then Antonio was asking about that earlier. So yes, Antonio. I mean, we did see this earlier in the day, and it's good to see that because I think in the future we will hopefully
we do it every fucking day. What do you say about that, James?
That's true.
Only every Wednesday. Fucking amateur hour. What is this? Come on now.
But I'm sure
I've literally lost my voice talking on this goddamn show.
You have.
All right.
I have too. I can relate to that experience. But we will pay attention to it. I'm sure there'll be interviews in there, and things that we can glean upon for like insights into new movies and TV shows.
Maybe we can have like a guest spot or something. Just
maybe.
No, that may be uncomfortable.
Well, speaking of Superman, though, Superman and Lois recently wrapped its run. Of course, we're talking about it. Yesterday was the finale. This Monday, it finished with 4 seasons on the CW, and there were a few Easter eggs hidden in the show, John. So this is one that you kind of sent over from another, Superman podcast,
Yes.
the Smallville podcast, spotted this one, saying that the Superman, basically Lois and Clark's charitable foundation that we see at the end of the show is called For All Seasons, which is of course one of the most iconic Superman comics. It's one of the big influences for James Gunn.
Yep, exactly.
Ahead.
I was
Yeah,
just going to say
absolutely.
one of the.
So I mean, it's just great to see that as a nod, like the showrunners again doing their research, knowing what they're bringing to the fans. And what was your thought? Is this something that you noticed when you saw?
I did not notice that. I was kind of like. I was, like bawling on my couch. Nah, I wasn't crying, but I was kind of just wrapped up in the emotion of everything that I didn't really notice the little details. But that's really nice.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
I really liked that.
I mean, Angelina, what are your thoughts? Do you like to see like little Easter eggs that sort of like pay homage to certain things about like whether it's the comics or maybe like if they reboot something, they'll have like in Apollo 13 at the end when they walk onto the ship, like the actual astronauts from the real Apollo 13 shake the hands of the actors playing literally those 3 astronauts from the real world. Like there's little nods like this, or at the end of The Dark Knight Rises, you have like, oh, your middle name, you should use that more often, Robin. I like it. Like it's not necessarily going to lead to anything significant, but it's just like a nice nod.
No,
to the
I think it's always nice to pay homage to the reference material. Just like I said, like I was interested in the Snow White. I love sort of traditionalism in that sense. I love like paying homage to source material and where these stories have come from and how far they've grown. And I think little Easter eggs like that just always sort of tie it back to what it was always meant to be and the original creation that inspired everything that came after, So personally, I love that stuff. I love to like dive in. If I had read the comics, I'd be right there with you guys. But however, I did not. So I'll just be over here ranting over Game of Thrones.
It's all good. It's all good. We'll if you want, we can send you over a few comics. I'm sure.
I'm okay, but thank you so much.
Well, speaking of the comics, fuck the Penguin, because of course the Penguin is the 3rd most popular TV show of 2024, at least according to IMDb. And I'm not surprised. I mean, I wonder what the 2 above it are. Somebody let us know. The list is on IMDb.com. I imagine maybe Shogun was probably higher on the list. Maybe like the House of the Dragon season 2 higher on the list. But the Penguin, I mean, the top 3. Nobody thought the show was gonna be as good as it actually turned out to be. And to this day, I'm just like, wow, like what did they do here? Like it's just crazy when you look at this, how deeply disturbing the psyche of Oz Cobb is, and how visceral it is in the way in which they explored it in the show. And I mean, of course, then you have all the other supporting characters, which did an amazing job.
I mean, the
Sophia, Justice for Wick,
like she just blew out of the water. I just was so.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I will say the shoes and leggings definitely give off like Velma Dinkley vibes right here.
Yeah, but you know what? Her fashion really was giving that mob lady.
Mm-hmm.
She was that mob bitch. She was ready to go. She said
she wasn't a mob boss. She was a mob bitch.
She was. She said, I was just getting it done. How do they decide this? Is it number of reviews and ratings? That's
I believe they have like a star rating system.
Oh, on IMDb.
Yeah, which isn't as reliable as Rotten Tomatoes, because the way that Rotten Tomatoes aggregates it, everything is verified. But still, IMDb has a bigger following in general. Like more people are able to contribute, so it does mean something. I mean, and again, the show was number 1 on streaming the whole time, all 8 weeks that it was airing. So it's good to see again just more success for the Penguin, even though the man himself is an absolute douchebag. But with that, guys, I think we're gonna wrap up DCU Daily for the day. As always, of course, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell as John is doing right there, so when we go live. We are here 5 days a week with DCU Daily, and we are of course here one of those days out of the 5. We also mash it up with Also Curious like we are today, and as we like to do on all episodes of Also Curious times DCU Daily, we like to finish off by looking ahead to the movie that is coming out the week upcoming, whether it's the week after or later on this week. We're doing the show on a Tuesday, so in a few days' time, you'll be able to go either to a movie theater near you. It's going to be in limited release. You can go watch the 6888 in a movie theater, but most of you will probably find it on Netflix. It's a movie that's based on true events from World War II, and I wanted to kind of briefly kind of look ahead to it with you guys because we most likely will end up reviewing it next week. It's a week of not so many big movies because nobody wants to get in the way of Wicked and Gladiator 2 and of course Moana 2. So there's a lot of like small awards movie, caliber movies like prestige films or movies that are just on streaming like the 6888. So I wanted to start off with you, John. You did a little bit of research in terms of what this movie is all about. Can you give us an idea of like what events is this based on? What's the concept? What does the number 6888 even mean?
So, as you said, it's based off of real events from World War II, and it's written and directed by Tyler Perry, of all people, doing something a little bit more serious. I don't know if he's done serious stuff in the past. I'm sure he has, but he doesn't usually does like this just 5,000 Medea sequels that nobody wants to see except for white Karens. But it's about the 6,888th, hence 6888, Central Postal Directory Battalion. That's a mouthful. Who is which was an all black and all female battalion in World War II, which is, it's a great, shining on a great. It was kind of reminds me of that movie. What was it? George Lucas produced it. It was like Red something. I forget what it was called. About. Red Dogs or something like that. I don't remember. But
Red Tails.
Red Tails. That's what it was. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, where it was the all black Air Force unit. I remember watching that. I have no recollection of it whatsoever. I just remember like, oh yeah, this looks good, and I watch it and I'm like, okay, that was a movie. Hopefully it's better than that. I mean, it sounds like a really great story. It's got a really good cast. Kerry Washington, Sam Waterston, Susan Sarandon.
You
Oprah
guys
Winfrey.
watch we gotta love Susan Sarandon. I love her so much.
Yeah, Susan Sarandon. She was in the amazing Blue Beetle last year. So,
Yes.
but yeah, it's got a really good cast. I mean, Kerry Washington is fucking great. I love her.
You guys watched the trailer for this movie. I was just so shocked by Kerry Washington's presence in this trailer. I mean, she's an incredible actress, but I feel like she's not always given the spotlight she deserves, which is sad. But even though she just got a star, right?
I was gonna say,
didn't she have her own show?
Oh. She had the scandal that ran for the longest time. And she's got a show on Apple TV Plus that I've heard is pretty good. But no, you're right, Angelina. They do actually. This was something I came across earlier on social media. They did just finally give her a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So we should get actually. You know what? Let's see if I can pull it up. I do believe I have some photos from it because it was she was there obviously.
I'm excited about this movie.
Yeah, and then like her parents were there, and then Tyler Perry was there. They were all. I mean, of course, it kind of lines up well with the promotional push for this film. Finally getting her star on the Walk of Fame. There she is, right there in Hollywood. And yeah, I mean, it's good to see Kerry Washington getting her, not just a star, but also her.
Love that pic of her with the turkey hat.
Oh, this one.
Great. Yeah, isn't that phenomenal?
This is perfect. The most relatable thing. I've enjoyed pretty much everything that I've seen her in. There's very few.
I mean, she was excellent in Django Unchained. She was damn good in that.
Yep. And one of those actresses that's kind of flies under the radar a little bit. I feel like maybe she could probably be a part of a few more franchises than she has had the opportunity to take part in. But
yeah, and she's going to be in the upcoming Knives Out sequel, Wake Up Dead Man. So that's good too.
Hopefully, that's going to be one of those movies that elevates her star. She's already got one on the the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So, and it's always good to see. I mean, however many decades ago the World War II was now, it's almost been 100 years. We're getting to like 80 plus years now, right? So yeah, there's still stories that we have yet to hear about. These untold stories of so many people who put their lives on the line and work so hard to, in this case,
almost always make me cry. So I'm just really hoping that this one's not gonna make me cry my eyes out.
But I mean, the story, it's just, it's not like they were shooting guns and like on the front lines, but they were doing an essential job of bringing letters from families to the soldiers on the battlefield.
Yeah,
like,
it kind of reminds me of Imitation Game, where they weren't like soldiers, but they did a lot to help.
Yeah, they did so much. I feel like there's the fact that there's still this many stories that have been completely untold. I didn't even hear about this. That really put in effort. Like, they make it seem like all of a sudden America showed up and the war was over, but like there was really truly so much more behind this. And it was obviously the last world war that we had, so it's just, I'm excited. I
hope it continues to stay that way, but yes. Yeah,
that's me knocking on wood.
Knocking on wood, yes.
But yeah, I don't know if I'll watch this because I have a lot.
Okay, but I'm a little confused. Is it going straight to streaming or is it going to the theaters? Because it looks like it's coming out on Netflix, but then it also said that it was in theaters on the 6th.
¿Por qué no los dos?
We don't know.
I think it's both. I think it's being distributed on Netflix, and I think it's like a same day thing. Hold on.
No, so it's a limited theatrical release. So you would have to be living in one of the bigger cities, like Philadelphia, New York. I don't know, like LA, Chicago. You may get a few showings, but it's really primarily going to be on Netflix, and they'll give it a small theatrical release, and it's what you would call a limited release, and then for most people, you'll be watching it on streaming, and that's really, Netflix is where you'll be able to find it. As far as the release date, I believe, John, you're right that it is coming out on December.
It's not coming out on the same day. On December 6th.
No, it's 2 weeks later.
And then it's not going to Netflix until December 20th. So
there we go. So, we'll check it out, and then we will let you know what we thought about it. I'm sure that
y'all get to go see it on Netflix.
Exactly. I think this is a good way to go about doing this, because you give it a 2-week runway to make some money. I'm glad, I think hopefully Tyler Perry pulled, threw his weight around a little bit to get that, because movies like this should be seen on a big screen at least, once or twice before you put it on a TV at home. Which, not saying that, that's not the best way to watch it, but,
it is.
It's what, at home, you mean?
No, I mean at
okay.
I thought you were saying at
No, I was talking about like
big screen.
Right. I'm saying, like, look, no, watching a movie at home is comfortable and you have everything the way you want it, but watching it on especially a movie like this, which will still, even though it's not necessarily, again, Saving Private Ryan, the scope of the movie, it still seems like they're trying to tell a story on a pretty big scale. And this is also, to me, from a representation standpoint, I don't believe we have seen anything like this before.
Also the fact that Oprah is making a cameo again. Like, I haven't seen Oprah in a movie in a hot minute, so I'm definitely excited. Second I saw Oprah and Susan Sarandon in the scene.
Hey, Dean Norris. I like him.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, from Breaking Bad.
Yep. Well,
so I'm excited. We'll see.
I'm excited to see it, and then we'll review it, and of course it's going to end up on Netflix right before Christmas time, so you guys can all watch it during your Christmas time movie marathon that I'm sure a lot of us will be doing while we're resting and taking some time with the fam. So guys, thanks as always for watching and tuning in. I know some of you guys might have dipped before we looked ahead to the 6888. We still appreciate you being here and watching the show, and if you are still watching, then hit that like button on the way out. And as always, subscribe and hit the notification bell, as you usually like to say. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of DCU Daily, and the rest of the week, we've got Creature Commandos reviews coming your way with the first 2 episodes airing on December the 5th. So that's literally on Thursday. We're less than 24 hours away at this point, or a little over 24 hours, I should say, from when the show is going live. And yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll review it. Liz will be on with us, and Angelina, you'll hopefully be back with us next week. And then I believe the week after, the movies start to pick up again, like in terms of like big movies in the box office. So we're getting closer to Christmas Day.
Kraven the Hunter.
So Kraven the Hunter.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be.
Oh God, I'm not excited.
It's gonna be so bad. It's gonna be good.
It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be the greatest movie of the year since Madam Web. It's gonna be,
It's gonna be the greatest movie since sliced bread.
It's gonna be the movie of the year, guys. It's gonna be the movie of the year.
Not movie of the week, movie of the year. Yeah. Well, guys, we'll see you next time. Another episode of Oh So Curious. Until then, go watch something in the movie theater, or just, if you're watching it at home, come back and talk to us about it in the comment section, in the live chat. We appreciate you as always, John, Angelina, on your and on our behalf, on the behalf of the whole Oh So Curious team. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Oh So Curious times DCU Daily.